Today, we are diving into a process that happens thousands of times a day all over the world. But it's so incredibly dangerous, it's basically an orchestrated dance with disaster. We're talking about loading a tanker with liquefied petroleum gas. It's a ballet of high pressure, extreme temperatures, and absolutely zero tolerance for error. So let's just get right to it. How do you safely load what is, for all intents and purposes, a rolling bomb? Now, that might sound dramatic, but honestly, it's not an exaggeration. The amount of energy packed into one of these tankers is just immense. So how do you get that volatile liquid from a huge storage facility into a truck without one single catastrophic mistake? Well, the secret is a strict, non-negotiable protocol. First things first, you have to understand exactly what you're dealing with. Before anyone even thinks about connecting a hose, they have to have a deep, healthy respect for the volatile giant that is LPG. Okay, so the core danger of LPG really comes down to physics. See, at normal temperatures, it's a gas, but to move it around, it's chilled and compressed into a liquid. And here is the really critical part. If that liquid ever escapes, it wants to become a gas again, like instantly, and it expands to about 270 times its liquid volume. It's that sudden, violent expansion that packs such a devastating punch. So, with that in mind, let's look at the preparation phase. This isn't just about ticking boxes on a checklist. Our source material calls it a pre-loading ritual, and for a very good reason. Every single step is a shield deliberately put in place to prevent a catastrophe. The second that tanker pulls in, the sequence begins. It's always positioned facing out for a quick getaway if needed. The engine is cut, brakes are on, wheel chocks are in place. Then every single electronic device, and yes, that includes the driver's cell phone, is switched off. The whole goal is to create a completely inert zone with zero potential sources of movement or, more importantly, ignition. You know, of all the dangers here, maybe the scariest is the one you can't see, you can't hear, and you can't smell: static electricity. As that liquid flows through all those pipes and into the tank, it generates a static charge. It's just like shuffling your feet on a rug. And without a safe pass to the ground, that charge just builds and builds until it finds one. And that's when you get a fatal spark. And this quote from a safety manual just hammers home how critical that grounding step is. It is crystal clear. You ground the tanker before you connect the hoses. No exceptions. Doing it the other way around is like arming a bomb and then trying to figure out how to defuse it. The risk of creating a spark right there at the connection point is just way, way too high. So the tanker is secure, it's grounded. Now we get to the main event, the transfer itself. And this is where controlling that flow of immense liquid energy requires absolute, total precision. Now, this is so important. You might think, okay, let's open the liquid line and get this stuff flowing. But that is a huge mistake. The pressure inside that main storage tank is massive. Opening the liquid line first would be like uncapping a fire hydrant on full blast. You get a violent surge that creates static and could literally shock the whole system. So instead, you open the vapor line first. This lets the pressure between the two tanks slowly and safely equalize, setting the stage for a smooth, controlled transfer. And even with the pressure equalized, the pump doesn't just go to full blast. It starts out slow. This really gentle initial flow creates what they call a liquid pad on the bottom of the tanker. Think of it like a cushion. It softens the landing for the rest of the incoming liquid, preventing all that violent splashing and turbulence that, you guessed it, creates static electricity. Only after that pad is in place do they ramp up the flow rate. Which brings us to probably the single most important rule in this entire high-stakes process. It's a single number that represents the razor-thin line between safety and disaster: 85%. You never, ever, ever fill an LPG tanker to the top. That last 15% of empty space is a non-negotiable safety feature. Why? Because LPG expands a lot when it warms up. If you fill a tank to 100% and then it sits out in the sun, the expanding liquid has nowhere to go. That's called a hydraulic lock. The pressure can build up so intensely that it actually ruptures the steel tank. That 15% is the tank's breathing room. It is absolutely vital. Okay, so the tank's filled to a safe level. You'd think the danger is over, right? But it's not. In fact, the disconnection phase is when a lot of injuries happen, precisely because people let their guard down and think the job's done. And just like opening them, closing the valves has to follow a very strict sequence. You methodically isolate the liquid, first the terminal, then on the tanker.
Then you do the exact same thing for the vapor lines. The whole process is designed to trap the absolute minimum amount of high-pressure liquid inside that hose.
Because if you get this wrong, if you trap a big slug of high-pressure liquid in that hose, when you go to disconnect it, all that stored energy can be released violently. We're talking about turning a heavy industrial hose into a lethal whip or causing a fitting to just explode.
We've seen the right way to do it. But to really, truly understand why every single one of these steps is so critical, we have to look at what happens when these protocols fail. The absolute nightmare scenario has a name. It's called a BLEVE. That's BLEVE, and it stands for Boiling Liquid Expanding Vapor Explosion. This is not just a fire. This is a catastrophic failure of the entire tank, and it is almost unsurvivable for anyone who is nearby.
Here's how it happens. It starts with an external fire, maybe from a crash or some other accident, and that fire starts heating the tanker. Now that fire is doing two terrible things at once. First, it's boiling the liquid LPG inside, which makes the internal pressure skyrocket. At the exact same time, the flames are cooking the steel shell of the tank, especially up in the vapor space, where there's no liquid to absorb the heat. The steel starts to lose its strength. It gets soft, almost like plastic. And then it happens. The weakened steel just can't hold back that immense pressure anymore. The tank fails catastrophically. In a split second, all of that pressurized, superheated liquid flashes back into a gas, expanding hundreds of times in the blink of an eye and creating a truly massive, devastating fireball. So, after seeing all of that, what is the ultimate safeguard? Is it stronger steel, better alarms? No, it's not the technology and it's not the steel. It's something else entirely.
The real shield, the ultimate safeguard, is a culture of safety. It's having continuous training, so these procedures become second nature. It's strict adherence, where close enough is never good enough. It's holding people accountable for their actions. And it's being prepared for emergencies. So if the worst happens, everyone knows exactly what to do.
This quote from the source material just sums it all up perfectly. You can have the best tech in the world. You can have automatic shutoffs, advanced sensors, all of it. But they are all just tools. And they are only as effective as the focused, disciplined, well-trained person who is operating them. And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? In these complex, high-stakes jobs, we have the technology, which is the shield, and we have the procedures, which are the skill. But what does it really take, on a human level, to build the unwavering focus needed to wield them safely every single time?